In the last tutorial, we looked at how to basically align left and right images in a stereoscopic pair. In this tutorial, we'll look at some more of the advanced tools that will allow us to fix some of the more elaborate problems that we might come across. So going back to the shot we were playing with in the last tutorial, let's just go back and fix that problem that we avoided. So if I just hit match colors and match geometry in stereo mode, just to get a basic fix, we'll get back to where we were. And remember, we were happy with this side of the image, but we had this polarization issue here, where this shiny surface was reflecting slightly differently between the left and right cameras. Now the problem here is that the match colors has given us an overall color grade to match the overall color of the shot, but this particular surface is different in a different way to the rest of the shot, so it would need its own treatment. So you can imagine the manual fix for this would have to be to key on this color to change it, or to rotoscope it even. Fortunately, Mistika has some powerful tools that will allow us to fix problems such as polarization. If we look down our folder list here, we've looked at the adjust and balance geometries, and the match colors was populating the balance color. If I skip down a couple, we get to balance color 2. And in here we have some particular fixes that are aimed at matching polarization and softness. So looking at our problem again, we can see we have an area of change here. So I'm simply going to go to fix and tell it which side I want to change the left. And now you can see the problem's fixed. So what has it done? Well, Mistika has used its optical flow technology, which it's using to act as, if you like, an object recognizer between left and right images. So on a pixel by pixel basis, it's checking to see what the color needs to be from one image to the other. So by switching it on, we get a perfect match in colors between left and right, even though this particular object needed to be graded differently to everything else. So your question is, why doesn't it just do that anyway? Well, there's two reasons. Firstly, this obviously takes a lot more computational power. So with this off, we're quite likely to be able to simply run this fix in real time without any processing at all. Whereas as soon as I put this on, at the moment this particular machine will probably drop to about 20 frames a second. Perhaps the next generation of computer will be able to do it in real time. So that's the first reason why it's separate. And that's just from an efficiency point of view. I'd only switch it on when I actually need it, when there's something in the shot that requires it. The other reason is because it's relying on object recognition. Object recognition isn't bulletproof, it can fail, particularly, as I've said before, if you have two images that have a lot of repetitive patterns. So the optical flow could perhaps misread one image, and that could lead to some artifacts. So that's another reason why you'd only use this when you need it. That said, seeing artifacts off this effect is not that common. The other function I've noted here is smoothness, which is naturally set to 1. Of course, a function of color correction is contrast, and if you think of contrast on a pixel by pixel level, then technically it's sharpening. So we can get help with images that aren't quite focused the same using smoothness. So if I look at this, we can see, you may be able to see on your low bandwidth playback, that the left image here is slightly softer than the right image. If I bring the smoothness down, we can see that that's actually been corrected. The max difference is a tolerance function. So if you did start to see any artifacts, you could wind this up to reduce the range of the effect. Let's move on to a more complicated problem. Let's look at this one. So this has a variety of issues going on. So the first thing I'd do with any shot is I'd straight away just hit match colors and match geometry. If nothing else, it reduces a number of the problems and leaves just the ones I now need to deal with manually. And we can see this one's got quite a few natural problems in it. So if I set a match move on this point here, so you can see that this isn't moving. But we can see actually that this foot is jumping up and down. So it could be that the whole image is rotated. Except this part of the image isn't jumping up and down, or at least it's not doing it very much. It's jumping left and right, and I'd say it's the same distance away as this, so I think it's certainly a candidate to be using match scale X. So now you can see that this is aligned, and this is aligned, but for some reason this foot's jumping up and down in the middle. And in all likelihood this is down to a mismatch in the lens. This is a particularly wide lens, so we're probably seeing a slightly different fisheye effect on one lens compared to the other. Now you can imagine, again, this would be a very difficult thing to fix, because essentially what I'm trying to do would be to make a vertical offset change around this area of the image that doesn't affect either end. I could do it manually with the warper, but it wouldn't be a quick function. So fortunately, just like the balanced color 2 that we looked at, which fixes the color of the shot on a pixel by pixel level, and in fact let's switch it on because it will certainly benefit here. We also have the ability to warp an image on a pixel by pixel level, and we'll find that function if we go into the optical flow folder and under mode choose align XY. We'll look at the other modes shortly. So in align XY, just like the balance 2, Mistika has sought to provide a warp to the image that will make sure that every object ends up with only a horizontal offset compared to where it is in the other eye. And again, being reliant on optical flow, there may be some images where this is not successful, or where it causes more problems than it solves, which again is why it's not on naturally. It's something that you switch on if you need it. If you start to see problems, there are various fixes. You can change the scope of its range, how harsh the effect is. There are also the standard controls that you find across optical flow to change its smoothness and other parameters. And also, in fact, in here there's a additional function under image, gamma. Now if I change gamma, you might expect the image to change brightness. It's not. What this function refers to is it's changing the image that optical flow is looking at to do its mathematics. It's not actually changing our output image. So on some images, perhaps particularly ones with lots of shadow detail, changing the gamma curve might also help you get a good fix. So between the one-hit tools of equalize through to the element by element fixes of match tools, and then going on to balance color 2 and optical flow align XY, you have a complete tool set that will deal with almost any fixable shot.